Hello everybody and welcome to another Doctor Who review. This time it's another 8th Doctor adventure from the Big Finish audio range. It's Embrace the Darkness. Okay, I'll get into the good bits and bad bits and obviously the cast and crew in a minute, but let's very quickly just go over the plot. On the planet Cimmeria 4, in the Cimmerian system, 3 scientists are working in a scientific base. And all of a sudden, they get attacked by some life forms and forces. They initially lose their eyesight, and the Doctor and Charlie end up seeing the history of the Cimmerian system from the TARDIS, and end up arriving just after the sun has gone out. The system itself is famous for the sun disappearing, and Charlie the Doctor wanted to find out the mystery. Charlie finds 3 crew members, almost loses her sight in the process as well, and finds that all their eyes have been taken out. Eventually, Charlie meets up with one of the inhabitants there, one of the Cimmerians, and as it turns out, they're a peaceful race, and the Cimmerian that she befriends manages to get the eyesight back of all the crew members, and ultimately sacrifices himself to do so. It turns out the whole thing about the psychic abilities they have has been a complete misunderstanding, and the fact when the sun went out, they tried to save each other, but unfortunately they did so much that they changed their own genetic structure and became blind themselves, so they didn't understand what having light would mean. They are scared of an enemy that could come to them, which is why they've decided to keep the place dark. But as it turns out, the enemy happens to be another sect of the same species, who are coming back on a scientific journey to find out what happened to the original planet. The scientists have been creating a grid which allows artificial satellites to create an artificial sun so the planet can be mined for commercial purposes. As it turns out though, the original inhabitants had come back using solar sail ship technology, and it's found that they were there to find out more about their past, and been surprised that some of the original inhabitants still existed. Charlie and the Doctor leave everybody to work together, and the 3 crew members of the scientific base manage to escape and leave the planet alone. Okay, let's look into the cast for this story. The Doctor, played by Paul McGann. This is actually a nice one, very explorative. It's utilising the Doctor's sense of reasoning and justice. And it seems that, he feels he wants to help the 3 crew members of the scientific vessel. He has a bit of frustration with the robot, the Rosm as they call it, and all this logic games he has with it, which is really interesting and seems to be one of his main frustrations of the whole thing, because the Rosm's like the helper unit, the helper robot that's come to be a rescue for the crew members once they send out a mayday. It's interesting how that all works, and that seems to be the main frustration for the Doctor here, but McGann plays it well. I mean, this is the thing, the 8th Doctor is very compassionate, and it's very shown here that the Doctor is very compassionate in this story, and I think it works really well, and Paul McGann plays it brilliantly as always. We then have Charlie, played by India Fisher. Charlie has a bit more to do in this one. She seems to be the focal point between the 2 sects of the crew. You've got Olensa and Ferris, who seem to be together for most of the story, and then you've got Halliard, the other one, who seems to be separate, and it's Charlie that meets up with Halliard, it's Charlie that meets with the Cimmerians at various points and seems to have that empathetic side to them. It's interesting how Charlie is utilised here. She is the audience participation focus, and I think the best way of showing that is the fact that when she shows her shot at the end of the first episode, when she finds that the crew has lost their eyes, they think they've just got everything's gone dark, but they've actually just lost their eyesight. It's a really interesting way of putting it across. It's really presented well by India Fisher here as Charlie, and I think it's a great little part that's been written for Charlie here, and certainly has come into her own. She's a bit more spare in a couple of the stories of this season of Big Finish adventures, but this one she certainly is in her own and has her own independent thought, and is a bit taken aback near the end when the Doctor sticks her with the crew when he goes back to try and save the Cimmerians after his mistake, and Charlie decides, nope, I'm coming with you, come what may. There's also the factor in here that Charlie seems to have other particles outside the normal germ warfare that humans have, that the Rosm robot talks about, and is alluding to the fact that Charlie's maybe not all she seems. The Doctor doesn't quite understand it, but it's obviously been recognised again that she's not all she seems. And this theme that's building up of Charlie being out of time and causing a rupture in the time is interesting, and it culminates, very soon, really, in the stories. We then have the guest cast. We have Olensa, played by Nicola Boyce, who happens to be a great little captain or commander of the expedition of the three scientists, and happens to have a kind of bitterness to her when she's lost her eyesight, and she has a bit of a defeatist attitude to things, which works really well the way it works with this one, and it's really quite nice to see, and I think it's played very, very well. It's also with a kind of Eastern European accent as well, which is a nice way of dealing with it, and I think it's nice to have that kind of European kind of variation to it. Plays it well, it works well for her, and I quite like the character overall. You then got Ferris, played by Lee Moon. Interesting character again, he's an interesting British character. The great thing about Doctor Who sci-fi is you get the characters, they're very British in the way they think and do things. It's nice to have that British look, because obviously other sci-fis from other countries have kind of like their country's worth of people that are out there in space, but Doctor Who's got very British quality because it's mostly British people, and this is reinforced with the characters of Ferris and Halliard. Ferris is more of the timid one, I think. He's the one that's a bit more uncertain and unsure, and seems to be relying a bit more on Lenser, and Lenser's a bit curt to him at times, probably out of fear, and it's interesting how that works, and Lee Moon plays it well. Halliard's interesting by Mark McDonald because he's a bit more happy-go-lucky, and he actually goes mad at one point once he lost his eyesight, but the Sumerians managed to get his eyesight back and he becomes more mellowed again. I think it really works, and I think it's nicely played by Mark McDonald because of that. We then have Ian Brooker, who plays Solarian, Sumerian, and Rosm, the computer robot system. That's the main role, and it's very standard fare, standard filter on it. It works well. I love the idea of Rosm being this kind of computer who has a set protocol and is very much, you're banging your head against the wall with this character, trying to get him to actually appreciate the logic. The Doctor's very good at working around it, and I think that's the best dynamic between the Doctor and Rosm in this, with the way they work with each other, and it kind of makes it work well. And I think Ian Brooker portrays a great voice here, and the characterisation works for me as well. We then got the writing. Now, this story was written by Nicholas Briggs, who also directed it. I love the elements of this one in regards to the whole spookiness of it with the whispering voices of the Sumerians. It really does make it different, and it's kind of like a childlike whisper as well, which is interestingly focused, which makes it work even more. This kind of spookiness and creepiness, and it really lends to the audio drama format, and you having to imagine what these creatures look like, and you really can get into that with the way the voices and the acting's done here. And I think this is probably because Nicholas Briggs has let the actors once again breathe and actually, work the roles they need to, and it's a great way of directing. And I think the fact that Nicholas Briggs wrote this and then obviously directed it kind of gives a land of they're working with the text, they're also working with the author in a way that's organic and natural. And again, I think this is one of these stories that works because of that, and I think I really like it for that. You've then got the music and sound design by Jim Mortimer, which is very, very subtle in regards to the musical cues. There's very few of them. They're there as just stings. They're not really interfering with anything in here, which is really nice to see. And it's a very steady sound design. It helps well build. Sometimes the sound design can be a little bit lacking. This one it isn't. It actually works quite well, and I actually like it for it, which is really nice. As I say, I like the elements of the story basis as well, and the misunderstanding that comes from the Sumerians and everybody in place here. The idea of humans coming in and wrecking a planet again for mining purposes, very much the economy factor that they talk about in the future. It's interesting format. I quite like the way it's written and put across, and it's an interesting listen, this audio drama, and very enjoyable as well. For that, I think I'm probably going to be kind of middle of the road with this one, and I'm going to give it what is now probably one of the most regular ratings I give in the Big Finish audios. This one is going to be 3.5 TARDISes out of 5. Okay, let's see how that story stacks up with the rest of the Big Finish audio reviews I've done so far. Embrace the Darkness sits in with 19 other Big Finish audio dramas I've reviewed so far, with the rating of 3.5 TARDISes out of 5, and that includes The Silence of Time, The Whispers of Terror, Red Dawn, The Shadow of the Scourge, The Mutant Phase, Sword of Orion, and The Eye of the Scorpion. At the bottom is still 3 stories with 3 TARDIS out of 5. They are The Land of the Dead, Winter for the Adept, and Invaders from Mars. And at the top are 2 stories with 4.5 TARDIS out of 5. They are The Apocalypse Element and The Chimes of Midnight. That's it from me. What did you think of Embrace the Darkness? Leave a comment down below. Did you like it? Leave a comment down below. Were you not so keen? Leave a comment down below. And if you like this video, please like it, share it with the hashtag teamstructor, and also hit that subscribe button and the notifications bell so you know when a new video comes out. General rule, new video every second Sunday at 4 PM GMT. And it is the end of Who month in November. But we continue the seasons of Paul McGann's Big Finish audios for the next 2 weeks. So the next video is Sunday at 4 PM GMT, and it will be Time of the Daleks. Hopefully you can join me for that. Until next time, thanks so much for watching and of course listening. And you know what? I'll see you later.